Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Claudia, for the introduction. And just jump into the topic we are discussing today. And I would like just to give a brief introduction of what this FALCON project is. So we are, as told you, we are part of this huge Horizon Europe project made by more than 25 partners all across Europe. Claudia, next, please, with partners from many different countries. As Claudia was saying, we have tried to cover different corruption typologies, and we have focused our work on different use cases. Basically focused on public procurement fraud, sanction circumvention by kleptocrats and oligarchs, corruption schemes at border crossing, and conflict of interest of politically exposed persons. Next, Claudia, please. So what we are doing with the FALCON project, basically is the main goal is innovate, the fight against corruption by introducing new technological tools and solutions. Of course, the idea is to apply artificial intelligence and learning machine technology overall for early detecting risk of corruption and suspicious behavior in the 4 key domains that I've disclosed to you before. So basically public procurement, sanction circumvention, border corruption, and conflict of interest. One of the most important components of this important research project is, of course, identifying the data that we need and the data sources, and understand how to make a fruitful use of this information and data that we have and we can obtain. So, for example, at the stage where we are standing now with the FALCON consortium, so we have just concluded the 2nd year and we have entered into the 3rd year of the FALCON project. Basically, we have our technical partner have already designed and starting to implement some tools. Here we have just few examples. For example, predictive analytics tool, providing prediction likelihood of possible single bidding. We have designed advanced corruption risk assessment tool, HOSINT, so open source intelligence tools to collect information and data, for example, from social media or other open sources that we can find online or in other domains. CryptoSer is a tool for following, for tracing, for example, transaction made with cryptocurrencies. Car visual recognition tool. This is pretty for border corruption. In fact, it's a tool with a camera that can recognize, for example, the car license plate and collect other critical and important information. So next, Claudia, please. So next time. Yeah, thank you. So this is just an overview of few of the database that are out of there. So the many sources that are available, public procurement data, company registries, financial transaction, crypto asset, politically exposed person list, sanctions list. So the idea here is how we can, of course, collect data and information from these sources and how we can combine them. And of course, as I was telling you before, making a fruitful use of this information and data. So Claudia, next, please. We are trying to give, some indication and considering what, the topic at the core of this workshop is border corruption. We have, as Claudia in introduction was saying, we have already done some publication. For example, a quick guide on border corruption published by Saba and myself, a working paper on, the port of Rotterdam, analyzing how corruption facilitates drug trafficking, and this, of course, is my main author is Saba, and I've co-authored this piece. Then we have other, deliverables made under the FALCON project, the FALCON umbrella, deliverable 2.2, 2.3, and 2.5. You can find them on the FALCON website. And then a couple of policy briefs that can help you understanding more the topic and immediate consequences and recommendation for policy activities. Please, Claudia, next. So I would like just to, wrapping up and summarizing a little bit what we have, published already and giving you some indication of what, is border corruption. So on what we are talking about today, so we have a clear definition of what border corruption is. David Youngs is the author of this definition. Basically, he defined border corruption as the illegal exchange of resources between border officials, the bribe takers on one side, and private actors, the bribe givers on the others. Of course, this kind of exchange happens at border space. That can be, border checkpoints or green borders, like the land border separating, for example, two countries. So the conceptual framework is quite easy. On one side, David identified, three types of private actors, like individuals, people like citizens crossing the border every day, formal organizations that are, of course, business organization, and then informal organizations that are more criminal type, of organization. On the other side, we have, of course, many, no, Claudia, please, thank you. Many types of public actors, that can be, of course, customs and immigration officials. We have border police officials, patrolling agents. We can have intelligence services and health and veterinary authorities. So depending by the place where we are doing our analysis or our investigation, of course, we can find different types of public agents. Third point in the conceptual framework made by David, it's two types of exchange between, public and private actors. The first one is collusion, when there is a sort of overlapping of interest and goals between public and private actors, while coercion is different. One of the two is coerced into participating in corruption and illegal exchange. So there are four types, different types of crimes that are related to this kind of border corruption, like rent seeking and extractive behaviors. We can have mechanism of state capture, smuggling and illicit activities, financial frauds and tax evasion strategies. So these are more or less some of the crimes, offenses that come together with border corruption. Next, Claudia, please. So, as Claudia was introducing at the beginning, and this is very true, border corruption has a strong impact on our society, on our country, represent a risk for national security, for health, can impact on migratory regulation, or even on the financial stability of a state. We can have different types of cost. Of course, one is a form of primary direct cost. For example, you think easily to the tax that are not collected by national authorities because of corruption. So I am, of course, a truck driver. I arrive at the border. I should pay some taxes or royalties on the goods I'm transporting. But through corruption, I reduce this amount. And this is, of course, a net loss for a state. But we can have also kind of secondary or indirect impact that are, like those effects that comes from, for example, the health to the cost for, the society or the national health system because of drug consumption that are facilitated by corruption at borders, or a loss in competitiveness and profitability of specific borders, like that because of corruption or rent-seeking activity. So this is just to give you an idea that, like border corruption can impact the well-being of a state, of a country, like not just through direct costs that are those that happen at border, but also through secondary, like an increase in violence, for example. And this is a point that Saba Wish, has also identified while doing her investigation at Rotterdam, like the increase in the violence related, like to the drug trafficking and drug consumption in Rotterdam, for example. So that's just to give you an idea of how much impactful border corruption can be for the well-being of our country, society, health system, and so far and so on. Please, Claudia, next. So just to conclude my short introduction, and then to leave the floor to, like the meat that Saba and Noemi are going to present. Under the FALCON project, we have produced, and we came to produce, to design, and to implement, also to operationalize 5 main red flags and risk indicators that are basically frequent crossings. So, like the amount of times a vehicle enter a country, for example, the collaborative crossing. So when many different vehicles cross a border together in a collective modality, the length of the staying. So the shorter a visit is, more suspicious can be for border corruption, border check post clearance. So the fact that a vehicle or a driver cross a border always while a specific public official, a specific border guards, a specific custom agent is there, is working, and this is a symptom that something suspicious is going on. And finally, the last point is about suspicious car model, that is about, like the stolen vehicles. And we have a list and we are comparing. So to come and to have produced these indicators, of course, before we have done research activities that permitted us to understand what are the modus operandi, what are the behaviors, what are the strategies of border corruption in sensitive location, sensitive places, and then through a process of elaboration and validation, we arrived. So basically, we, as FALCON Consortium, we arrived to put together these 5 different indicators. So this is just to give you an overview of what we have done till now in the, while analyzing this specific typology of corruption, that is border corruption. I will leave now the floor to Claudia and Saba and Noemi for the next part of the presentation. Thank you.